And I'll start with Natalie. Natalie King is a licensed civil engineer with 12 years of experience in the private sector, specializing in land development, flood management, and flood risk analysis. She received a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from California Polytechnic State University San Luis Obispo and a Master of Science degree in civil and environmental engineering from UC Davis. She served as a subject matter expert for the board for 3 years, helping with the development of the civil engineering surveying exam, and was appointed Senior Registrar for Civil Engineering in November 2018. At BPELSG, Natalie personally reviews every application for professional civil engineering licensure in California, as well as structural, geotechnical, and traffic engineering. In addition to application review, she assists board staff with development of California state exams, civil engineering, seismic principles, civil engineering surveying, geotechnical engineering, and traffic engineering. And she provides the enforcement unit with technical support on issues within civil engineering discipline. Our other speaker, Mike Donelson, PE is a licensed electrical engineer who has been a senior registrar at the board for professional engineers, land surveyors, and geologists since 2007. He oversees the registration and licensure process for 10 engineering disciplines and provides professional expertise in enforcement cases related to electrical engineering. Prior to this role, he played a critical engineering support role in the mission of the California Department of Transportation for 16 years. Mike holds a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from CSU Chico. And I will give the floor to Natalie and Mike. Go ahead, and I think you have ability to share your screen now.
Hello. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If not, please put in the chat if you have any technical issues. As mentioned, my name is Natalie King. I'm a licensed civil engineer. I'm with the California Board for Professional Engineers, Land Surveyors, and Geologists, and my colleague Mike Donelson and I are here today to talk about professional engineering licensure in California. We would prefer questions be entered into the chat throughout the presentation. We do have a couple slides where we will pause for questions about the FE exam, the PE exam, and then licensing requirements. And then we are also available at the end of the presentation for more questions. So today we're going to go over who is the board, who is the California Board of Professional Engineers, Land Surveyors, and Geologists. What is our purpose? We're going to talk about professional licensure in California, how it differs from licensure in other states. And then we're going to dive into the qualifications and timeline for licensure as a professional engineer, specifically speaking about the fundamentals of engineering exam, the principles and practice of engineering exam, and then the education and experience requirements. So to start off, we wanted to just introduce who is the California Board for Professional Engineers. The California Board was created in the 1920s after the collapse of the St. Francis Dam. This was a reservoir that was designed to hold just over 38,000 acre feet of water. And shortly after it was finished being constructed and within inches of being full, the dam collapsed and the entire 38,000 acre feet of water rushed downstream. As you can imagine, there were hundreds of lives lost, millions of dollars in damage, property damage, land damage, structure damage. And so California decided that the practice of engineering, civil engineering to be specific at that time, needed to be regulated. And that is when the board was created. Currently, there are 15 board members. 8 of those members are public members and 7 practitioners, 7 licensees. Mike and myself are not considered, we are not board members, we are board staff. And so as we mentioned in our introduction, as board staff members, we help out the enforcement unit, exam unit, licensing unit, and outreach. with functions within our disciplines. There are 4 licensed professionals on staff. I am the licensed civil engineer, Mike is the licensed electrical engineer, and then we also have a professional geologist and a land surveyor on staff. So the purpose of the board is protection of the public. It is why the board was created in 1929, and it is still the #1 reason for the board, protection of the public. And this is the highest priority for the board. We keep this at the forefront of our decisions, our licensing decisions, our regulatory decisions, and our disciplinary functions. The quote at the bottom of this slide is included in the Professional Engineers Act, the Land Surveyors Act, as well as the Geology and Geophysicists Act. So in California, we are unique in that we issue discipline-specific licenses. There are other states that issue a professional engineer license, and that license encompasses various disciplines. In California, we issue discipline-specific licenses, and we have 3 different types of licenses. We have our practice acts, our title authorities, and our title acts. Starting with our practice acts, these are the highest level of public protection. And the reason for that is that we regulate both the practice as well as the title. So an individual cannot practice or offer to practice civil engineering, electrical engineering, or mechanical engineering unless they hold a license in California to do so. They may also not use the title civil engineer, electrical engineer, or mechanical engineer unless they hold a California license in that discipline. The next type of license is our title authorities. And for engineering, we have 2 title authorities, geotechnical engineering and structural engineering. And these are almost like a specialty license, because you first need to be licensed as a civil engineer in California. And then with additional exams and additional work experience within that specific discipline, you can apply to use the title geotechnical engineer or structural engineer. Now it's worth noting that with a civil engineer license, you can practice geotechnical engineering and structural engineering. You just cannot use the title. The only exception to that is work or public schools and hospitals. That type of work for those specific projects do require that a licensed geotechnical engineer and structural engineer be in responsible charge. And then finally, we have our title acts, and these are the lowest level of protection because we only regulate the title. So any individual may practice chemical engineering, anyone can practice nuclear engineering, traffic engineering, but only a person who is licensed by the California board in one of those disciplines may use that title. And with each of those disciplines, we do have legal definitions. Our practice acts, so civil engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering, these are defined in statute, in law, and then our title authorities and title acts are defined in regulation. On the screen right now is the legal definition of civil engineering. And then we also have the definition for electrical, mechanical, and I believe we included chemical as well. So I'll let Mike speak to this slide.
So again, 6731.5 talks about electrical engineering. And the other thing I want to point out on all these definitions is notice there's no specifications. There are no ASME, IEEE specifications. So these basically last through time. They have not been changed in some 20 years. So each one of these definitions, as you take a look at mechanical, it's high level, but there's no specifications. So they can basically stand the test of time. They don't see any changes. The other thing I also wanted to just highlight is there's no overlap. So either you're doing chemical engineering or you're doing civil or electrical or mechanical, but there is no overlap between the definitions. So you're either doing electrical engineering or mechanical engineering. There's no like gray area from a law perspective. It's completely in one area or the other. And then this is chemical engineering as well. And just do take a note, it does discuss about shall not be construed to permit the practice of civil, electrical, or mechanical. the definition of chemical engineering. So that you can't infringe on those particular areas as well. If you'd like to move on the next slide. Now, do you want to discuss the FE?
Sure. So when discussing the requirements for professional licensure in California, there are 2 national exams that are required for most disciplines. There is an exception of traffic engineering. But for most disciplines that we license in California, we do require that you take and pass the 2 NCEES exams shown on this slide, the Fundamentals of Engineering exam and the Principles and Practice of Engineering exam. And first, we're going to talk about the Fundamentals of Engineering exam. So the FE exam is the first step in the process to becoming a professional licensed engineer. This exam is designed for recent graduates or students who are close to finishing their undergraduate degree from an ABET accredited program. There are 7 disciplines that you can select, and you can register for any discipline regardless of what your education and regardless of the license that you wish to pursue. You just need to pass one of the 7 disciplines. The FE exam is a computer-based exam. It is offered year-round at Pearson VUE testing centers. It's 110 questions. You get 6 hours to take the exam, and you can register and pay directly to NCEES. You do not need to apply to the board, and you do not need prior approval from the board. These are the 7 disciplines that you can choose from. From a civil engineering perspective, typically we see civil engineering applicants take either the FE civil exam or the FE other disciplines exam. The other disciplines exam is, in my opinion, considered a general engineering. It covers topics that you would see in the first 1 to 3 years of an engineering undergraduate degree program, regardless of the specific discipline that you select. So those are typically the 2 that I see for civil engineer applicants. But remember, you can take any of the 7. It will not dictate what license you can pursue. Looking at the exam preparation materials, because the FE exam is a computer-based exam, it is closed book. There is one reference handbook that will be available during the exam. It will be provided electronically as a searchable PDF file during your exam. It is also available for free download with a My NCEES account. You do need a My NCEES account in order to register for these exams. So once you have that account, you can download the reference handbook and become familiar with it prior to sitting for your exam. There are also discipline-specific exam specifications available on the NCEES website. We have also provided these as a handout, so those will be available to you. And then you can also purchase practice exams available through your My NCEES account, and these include 100 questions and solutions, and there is a discount depending on when you register for that exam as compared to your graduation date. Another thing for these being a computer-based exam is they include what's called alternative item types. So in addition to the traditional multiple choice question, which is a multiple choice single response, there are also alternative item type questions. These are scored as either correct or incorrect. There are no partial credits. And we have a quick video on the next slide to demonstrate these different types of alternative item type questions.
Examinees taking a computer-based NCEES exam may see up to 5 types of questions on their exam. The question types include traditional multiple choice questions that feature 4 answer options from which to choose, one of which is the correct answer. Multiple choice questions with multiple correct options feature more than 4 answer options from which to choose and allow for multiple answer options to be selected. Point and click questions require you to select one or more predetermined clickable areas that become visible when you move your cursor over the graphic. Drag and drop questions require you to click and drag your answer options to sort, rank, match, or label a provided graphic. Fill in the blank questions require you to enter your response instead of choosing it from a list of answer options.
So on the screen right now are the pass rates for the FE exam. These are pass rates for examinees who took the exam for the first time and attended an ABET accredited engineering program and sat for the exam within a year of graduating. It's important to note that you should not look at these pass rates when determining which exam you want to register for and sit for. You really should take a look at those exam specifications that are available on the NCES website, as well as a handout that we have provided. Once you've passed the FE exam, you may qualify for your Engineer in Training certificate. So the EIT certificate, the requirements are that you have passed the FE exam and that you have a minimum of 3 years of either engineering education, 3 years of engineering experience, or a combination of education and experience that totals a minimum of 3 years. So if you have a bachelor's degree in an engineering program, you will meet that 3-year requirement, and you will be able to apply for your EIT certificate. Some important things to note: an EIT certificate is not a license. Engineer in Training is a title, and it does not give legal authority to practice or offer to practice civil, electrical, or mechanical engineering in California. Remember, those are our practice acts, so you do need to be licensed in order to practice those disciplines of engineering. Another important note is that FE waiver applicants do not qualify for an EIT certificate. If you have passed the FE exam and you do meet the education or experience requirement, you can apply for your EIT certificate using our online BPELS Connect system. It is a $75 application fee. And currently the timeline for an EIT certificate for California residents is about 1 to 2 weeks if there are no deficiencies. Before I open it up to questions, I do want to just quickly jump away from the presentation and show you on the NCS website where you can download this FE exam information. So hopefully everyone can still see my screen. If you do go to the NCEES website, you can click on exams and navigate to the FE exam page. And if you scroll down, this will provide a lot of information that you will need to know for the FE exam. And as you scroll down to the bottom, you will be able to download and view the exam specification. So if I click on the FE civil exam specifications, you can see that these provide you information about what topics will be tested on during the exam, as well as the number of questions within each area. So this is a great resource for not only selecting which exam you wish to register for, but also to focus your studying. The other thing that I wanted to show you is if you are on the NCEES website and you click up here on My NCEES, this is where you can register for a My NCEES account or download, or excuse me, or sign in to your account. Once you are signed in, this is where you can register for an exam from your dashboard. You can also purchase the practice exams from your My NCEES dashboard. And if you click down here under useful documents where it says view reference handbooks, this is where you can access all of the electronic reference handbooks that are available from NCEES. The first one in the list is the FE reference handbook. And then all of the PE exams that have transitioned to computer-based currently have a reference handbook available for download. If you click on that link, it will download a PDF file of the reference. I have already done that, so I just wanted to quickly show this reference handbook. It's 502 pages, and it includes all of the figures, charts, graphs, and charts that you will need in order to be successful on this exam. This is not a reference handbook with example problems. It does not go into discussion on how to use these equations, charts, and graphs and figures. So you will need to know how to use these equations, but this is 500 pages of all of the equations, charts, figures, and graphs that you will need, and you will be provided on the exam day. So with that, I will switch back to the presentation and open it up to any questions that there may be about the FE exam or EIT certificate. I have the chat open, so David, I don't know if you want me to just read the questions in there, or if somebody was going to go through them.
Yeah, if that's easier for you,
Okay.
you can go ahead and do that. There's just a couple in there, I see.
There's a couple direct questions, but one of them saying, if someone did not take the FE exam but does have an EIT certificate, is it okay to take the PE exam? So that question would lead me to believe that perhaps you met requirements for an EIT certificate in another state without taking the FE exam. If that is the case, you will need to apply for an FE waiver when applying for your license. You will not be eligible to sit for the PE exam unless you meet the requirements for a waiver.
Yeah, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanna know that EIT is becoming a license, because there is a license number, and if somebody passed 2010 and it is valid up to 2093. So it's a long journey to validation, you know, of the EIT certification, you know. And my question is, right now they are saying you have to pass EIT exam to go for PE license. Are you, it's okay, or there is need? Can you please give me some little bit idea, you know? It is a consideration of the license in the future, because I am looking that they are putting the information on the website who passed the EIT exam. So they put this guy and this guy passed this EIT exam this year, and the number, the license number, and the validity, same like a PE exam.
So let me be clear, the EIT is a certificate. It is not a license. It is only a title. So you are not given legal authority to practice any discipline of with an EIT certificate. For currently in California, to be eligible for a license, you do have to either take and pass the FE exam or meet the requirements for an FE waiver. I don't see those requirements changing anytime soon. So Mike, do you have any comment on that?
I was just going to make one.
Because I passed EIT, I saw that it is available on the Google. So they are saying this is the license number for EIT. So my question is that there is a consideration in the future, EIT and is essential for the PE, also essential, you know, I don't know exactly. So you can give me an idea, what is the new policy, you know?
Well, first thing, I just want to make one statement. On license lookup, you cannot look any EIT number up in the state of California. There may be other states, but in our licensing databases, you just look up licensees for PE, PG, LS, that type. But we do not have LSIT or EIT license verifications for the public, just because there's no authority for practice. So that's why I'm a little confused on your question, what you're actually trying to ask.
My question is the same thing, like because if somebody pass EIT, So that information is also available online right now. So the thing is, if somebody wanna go for the PE license, he need to pass the EIT first. That is a basic requirement. There is no waive, in the future. Before it was a waive. If you have a 17-year experience, 15-year experience, you can appear for PE exam. So, but EIT is essential for the PE exam.
So I think we can continue this conversation maybe offline to your specific situation, but in general, California requires that you have taken and passed the FE exam, that you take and pass the PE exam in order to qualify for licensure. We do have waiver options. They're a little more complex. So if there are specific questions, I would suggest deferring those till the end. So that we can make sure that we answer those specifically. A couple other questions we have in the chat. If you fail the FE exam, is there a waiting period before you can take the test again? NCES has a policy that you can take the exams once per quarter and up to 3 times per year. So you, the only waiting period would be to make sure that you're within the next quarter and no more than 3 times per year. There's a question in the chat that has to do with experience. So if it's okay, I'm going to defer that to later in the presentation when we actually get to the experience. So if that's it for now, feel free to continue entering questions into the chat if you think of something, and then we can address those a bit later in the presentation.
I would just like to make one comment since both Natalie and I have received our FE many, many years ago. One comment that we still get is that the test level and the level of difficulty has been the same through many, many years. So whether you took your FE in the 1990s or you take it here today, when we're talking to the people who passed it, it's the same level of difficulty. The time might be changed. The time amount, when I took it, was 8 hours. Now it's down to 6. And the format was paper and pencil, but now it's computer. But again, it's the same level of difficulty. So if you're talking to other engineers throughout, the state, and they've taken their FE, the level of difficulty and competence expectations are the same.
And I apologize, I just reread the question. The question in the chat is for somebody who is working towards a master's degree in engineering, undergraduate degree is related. Does the experience working under a PE obtained while working on the master's degree count towards an EIT, or must the work experience be gained after? You can gain your work experience for your EIT at any time. It doesn't have to be after your master's degree. If you're working on your master's degree, I would make an assumption that you probably have the required 3 years of engineering education. But any work experience that you claim for your EIT certificate can also be claimed for your license, as long as for your license, the work experience does need to be after your bachelor's degree. But if work experience is claimed for your EIT certificate, you can also claim it for your license. Another question is, how is the year divided into quarters? It's simply 3 months at a time starting in January. So quarter 1 is January, February, March, and then so on and so forth. So in California, once you've taken and passed the FE exam, you can register and apply for the PE exam. Those of you who are on the call who received your license 10 or more years ago, you used to have to meet all of the requirements for licensure and get approval from the California board before you could sit for the PE exam. Now, once you've taken and passed the FE exam, you can register for the PE exam with your My NCES account. The PE exam reflects real world practice, and it's testing for minimal level of competency in a specific discipline of engineering. Unlike the FE exam, where you can take any of the 7 disciplines, you do need to take the PE exam in the discipline that you wish to become licensed. It is an exam that is developed by NCEES. It's developed by licensed engineers throughout the country. It is a $375 registration fee that is paid directly to NCEES, and you can register after passing the FE exam. All NCEES PE exams have transitioned to computer-based exams, with the exception of the structural exam. That exam is scheduled to go computer-based next spring. So currently the civil, chemical, electrical, and mechanical exams are all computer-based exams. There are discipline-specific exam specifications available on the NCEES website. We have also provided those as PDFs, and the PE exam reference handbooks are available through your My NCEES dashboard. So first, looking at the PE civil exam, this exam now as a computer-based exam is offered year-round at Pearson VUE Testing Center. So rather than the April and October test dates, it is now year-round. It is 80 questions, including alternative item types, similar to the video we showed for the FE exam. And you get 8 hours of exam time to complete the exam. The PE civil exam is divided into 2 sections. There is a morning breadth section. The morning section will cover the same topics regardless of which afternoon depth section that you apply for. When you register for the exam, you will need to select the afternoon depth section that you would like to take. Your choices are construction, geotechnical, structural, transportation, and then there is a water resources and environmental section. The morning section is approximately 40 questions. Afternoon section also approximately 40 questions for a total of 80 questions. Like I said, you do need to select your afternoon section when you register for the exam. However, it does not matter which afternoon section you take and pass. That will not dictate what your area of practice is once you receive your PE civil license. And there are discipline-specific exam specifications available on the NCEES website. Here are the pass rates for the PE civil exam. These are computer-based exam pass rates. And again, similar to what we said for the FE exam, please do not select your discipline based on the pass rate. I would very much encourage you to look at those exam specifications. Even if you focused your courses when you were in college in, let's say, the construction area, it does not necessarily mean that the classes and the information that was taught aligns with the topics that are tested on that construction exam. So it's very important that you look at those exam specifications and select the exam that you feel you would be most successful.
Now moving on to electrical, there's actually 3 different subdisciplines, but they have different test windows. So the computer engineering is only given once a year in October, I believe, 23rd, 2023. And it's 85 questions and 8.5 hours of exam time. The electronics, controls, and communications is the same once a year in October, 85 questions, 8.5 hours of exam time. And then the last one is power. And it's offered year-round for 80 questions, 8 hours of exam time. And all those specifications are on the NCEES website to get the exact what's inside each one of those disciplines. But really, as an electrical engineer with different subdisciplines with a time frame, I would always encourage you to look at powered. The only reason I do that is because it's offered so year-round, because the other ones are only offered once a year. So if you should not have a favorable result, you're waiting an entire year to take another opportunity at it. If you want to move on to the next slide, that'd be great. Here's the pass rates. I cannot say this enough, is it's great to look at them, but don't select. Go take a look at what your knowledge in each area and figure out which is your best fit. And I would encourage power just because one, the volume of people, as well as probably a little more test preparation materials out there, because the other two exams are given only once a year. And you can see by some of the volumes, it's a smaller pool of applicants as well. So it's hard to kind of gauge test success as well. So just something to be aware of. We want to move on to the next slide. We'll move on to mechanical. So mechanical is nice because all three disciplines are given year-round, and they're basic HVAC and refrigeration, machine design and materials, thermal and fluids. There's again those 80 questions, 8 hours in exam time, basically 40 questions in the morning, 40 questions in the afternoon. Those exam specifications are out on the NCS website, and we provided below. And then we can move on to pass rates, which are pretty good in the next slide. So they're pretty uniform across it. Again, it's great to look at. They have a little higher pass rate than some of the other disciplines, but again, there's nothing to choose one versus the other. Again, they're all using the same reference handbook. It's some 500 pages, very similar to the civil one as well. And then we'll move on to chemical. It was the first one to go to CBT, or one of the first exams. It's been CBT for almost like 3 years, I want to say now. It's offered year-round, 80 questions, 8 hours exam time. The pass rate this cycle has been a little lower, I would say about 58. I've seen it as high as almost 60 or 70% sometimes. And again, the specifications are out on the NCS website. The reference, again, about 500 pages, and is very condensed, meaning there's a lot of material, but it's a very good reference to use for this exam. Obviously, you can locate it as well. We can move on to the next slide. PE exam references. Obviously, the one that's going to be available to you is the one that you've downloaded off the NCS website. It's available electronically. During the test, it'll be on one screen. The question will be on the second. It's available for free download over that My NCS account. You can do that today. The design codes and standards will be supplied to examinees on exam day as searchable electronic PDFs. The reason we highlight that is some of the exams will require additional design codes and standards. And we have a slide to discuss about the civil, as well as I believe a couple other. Electrical also has one or two other additional design codes and standards that are outside the reference handbook. And then the next one, NCS provides those practice exams, I believe digitally now, and it's 100 questions. It includes the solutions, it includes alternative item types, and right when you register, you get a 10% discount on a PDF version. Highly suggested. I would hand out, if we were having this presentation now, I'd actually hand out a printed version just so you get an idea of what that practice exam kind of looks like, level of difficulty. So you would like to go on the next slide.
So
Now
this video, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, but if you want to discuss this and really highlight the design standards, because I think that'll be applicable to a couple of people in the audience.
So as Mike mentioned on the previous slide, there are certain PE exams that require the use of specific design codes and standards. The PE civil engineering exam does require specific design codes and standards, and these will be listed at the end of the exam specifications. During the exam, these design codes and standards will be available to you as a searchable PDF file, but they will not be available to you prior to the exam like the reference handbook is available. So you can download the reference handbook, but any codes and standards that are required for your exam will only be available to you on the day of the exam. So you will need to become familiar with those ahead of time. This video will show you how the reference handbook and design codes and standards will be available to you during the exam. It will be a split screen, so the reference materials will be on one side of your screen while the exam is on the other side of your screen.
In addition to the NCEES reference handbook, the computer-based PE civil exams will include access to a library of design codes and standards. To use the design code library, click the Design Codes and Standards tab on the left side of the screen. Some larger files will be separated into chapters for optimal exam performance. Click on a title to open the file. Only one file can be open at a time. You can search for words and phrases or click on linked bookmarks to navigate the file. The PE Civil Exam specifications on ncees.org list the codes and standards that will be provided to you on exam day.
So here are some additional resources for the NCEES computer-based exams. We've mentioned the reference handbooks that are available. There's also an on-screen line tool to help with the reading of charts and graphs on the screen. The video we showed for alternative item types, and then Pearson VUE and NCEES have also provided some testing demos, exam day experience, as well as the NCEES examinee guide. This guide includes a lot of the information that you will need for the exam day. For example, what can you bring with you? Water, pencils, calculators. It will tell you what calculators are allowed on the exam. NCEES only allows certain calculators. There's a question in the chat about what mouse devices will be available for a computer-based exam. This examinee guide will have that information, as well as if you need to make any special accommodation requests. That will all go through NCEES, because again, the California board does not administer or develop these exams. So any questions specifically related to the exam would need to be directed towards NCEES. Before we move on, Mike, do you have anything to say? Otherwise, we can open it up to questions.
I just have questions. I think open up to questions.
Are there any questions about the PE exam? So there was a question earlier in the chat about why California does not issue an environmental license. If you look on NCS's website, there is a PE environmental exam. California does not accept this exam unless you are licensed in another state. And the reason that California does not issue a environmental engineer exam is that a lot of the work that is done within that environmental discipline is already captured in the definition of other licenses that we do issue. So some of environmental work can be defined as civil engineering, some can be defined as chemical or mechanical engineering, sometimes geology. So because a good portion of that work is already defined in other disciplines, California has decided not to issue an environmental engineering exam. Discipline. Okay, seems to be quite a few questions. There's one about someone took the PE exam 10 plus years ago, also passed seismic and survey, but did not pass the 8-hour exam. Question is, if I come back to retake the PE exam, will the board still count the seismic and survey exams that you passed? I would recommend emailing your evaluator. You can find their contact information on the Contact Us page of our website. We do have a link to our website on the final slide. They will be able to look at your situation and determine whether you only need to take the PE exam or if you need to reapply. So I would suggest emailing your evaluator for that question. Another question, can the afternoon depth portion of the civil PE exam be waived via a Title Act licensure, specifically a traffic engineer license? So board rule, can the afternoon portion of the civil exam? No, the PE civil exam is one exam. The morning and afternoon section are considered one exam. So it's not split. You can't pass the morning section and retake the afternoon section. It's one full exam. and we do not waive any portions of that exam. To be licensed as a civil engineer, you do need to take and pass the PE civil exam. Another question. I work for the Water Division in the Public Advocate's Office at CPUC. Have been here for the last 5+ years, essentially working on civil engineering. Academic background is in EEE, both bachelor's and master's. If I attempt the PE electrical power exam, will my work experience count towards my license? The answer to that is twofold. So for education, which we will talk about next, your degree just needs to be accredited by ABET. So we're just looking to see if it's engineering. Your education does not necessarily need to be in the discipline that you're applying for. As far as will your work experience count for licensure, if you are applying for an electrical engineering license, your work experience must meet the definition of electrical engineering, not civil engineering. I'm going to defer to Mike on that for more information.
Yeah, I was going to concur with that. The chat was a little slow on my section, so I haven't seen that comment come across yet.
But as Mike mentioned during the slides that had the definitions, your work experience does need to meet the definition of engineering that you are applying for, and there is no overlap or gray area between disciplines. So if your work experience is essentially civil engineering work, then that work would not fall under the definition of electrical engineering, it sounds like. Another question, did you say that experience needed for a PE license only begins counting after getting a bachelor's degree? Correct. If you are claiming education for your license, then your work experience needs to be after the date of graduation shown on your transcripts.
Here's what I found.
Ooh, excuse me. Similar to the FE, is there a waiting period if you fail the PE? Same situation. You can take the exam up to 3 times per year and once per quarter. However, as Mike mentioned, some of the exams are only offered once per year. Okay, and with that, we will continue on. Again, if you have questions, please continue to put them in the chat. So next, we're going to dive into the actual qualifications for licensure. So this is a timeline for professional engineering licensure in California. We've talked about the fundamentals of engineering exam and that the ideal time to take that exam is in your senior year of your engineering education or as close to graduation as you can. Once you've taken and passed that FE exam, you can register and sit for the PE exam. Now, the PE exam, again, does need to be in the discipline that you are wanting to get licensed. But you can take that PE exam while you are gaining your required work experience. I do, at least for the civil exam, recommend taking that exam as quickly as you can. Once you've passed that FE exam, start studying for the PE exam. When I studied for the PE exam, it was 2 years after I had graduated with my bachelor's degree. I was in my master's program. And there was a lot of the material that I hadn't seen since college. So I would personally recommend taking that exam as soon as you feel ready, which I think is closer to your graduation with your bachelor's degree than it is further away. Once you have taken and passed your FE exam and your PE exam, and you have the required work experience, that is when you are going to apply to the board. For non-civil and traffic applicants, once your application is approved, you will be issued your license. For civil engineer applicants, once your application is approved, that is when you will be eligible to take the seismic and survey exams, which are required for licensure. So the requirements for professional engineering licensure in California, you must take and pass the FE exam. You must take and pass the PE exam in the discipline that you wish to get licensed. And you must demonstrate 6 years or more of qualifying engineering experience in the discipline that you wish to pursue. Now, this 6 years of engineering experience can be 6 years of experience only, or it can be a combination of education and experience, which we will speak about on the next page. For civil engineers, you also are required to pass the engineering, surveying, and seismic principles exam. So the experience credit for engineering education, I would say 90 to 95% of our applicants do claim education as a portion of their experience credits. So we do offer credit as qualifying experience for graduation with an engineering degree. If you have a bachelor's degree from a non-ABET accredited engineering program, you will receive 2 years of experience credits, and you will need 4 years of work experience in order to meet that 6-year requirement. If you have a bachelor's degree from an ABET accredited engineering program, you'll receive 4 years of experience credit. And then if you go on to get a master's or a PhD from what is considered a board approved program, you will get 5 years of experience credit and need 1 additional year of work experience. Now, the reason the master's and PhD is referred to as a board approved program is that ABET doesn't accredit very many postgraduate degree programs. And so an approved postgraduate engineering curriculum is determined as a postgraduate degree that is earned from an engineering program where the bachelor's degree program is accredited. So if you go on to get a master's degree in civil engineering from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, if you look on ABET's website, the master's degree is not ABET accredited. However, the bachelor's degree in civil engineering is. So we will consider that master's degree board approved and give you the 5 years of experience credit. All other work experience does need to be gained after the date of graduation on your bachelor's degree, on your bachelor's transcripts. Work experience must also meet the appropriate definition of engineering. It does not need to be in California. You may work on projects outside of California, even outside the United States, but the work experience does need to meet the definition of engineering in California law and regulation. References must be appropriately licensed or legally authorized to practice engineering. For civil engineering applicants, this means that your references must be licensed civil engineers, or if the work is done outside of the United States, they need to be legally authorized to practice civil engineering in the country where the work is being done, and they will need to provide sufficient documentation to show that. Mike, do you want to speak to the reference requirements for the other disciplines?
I would like to continue, and then we'll take questions at the end, and I'll elaborate a little further.
As I mentioned, references may be licensed outside of California, but all references for an engineering applicant must answer yes to the question, do you consider the applicant technically qualified to be licensed as a professional engineer? So a reference is provided 3 options to this question: yes, no, and do not know. And typically when a reference answers no or do not know, usually it is because that reference was only familiar with engineering work done perhaps right after the applicant graduated from college, and they were just doing drafting type work. So the work that they were doing wasn't at the level appropriate for licensure. So be sure to have a conversation with your references prior to asking them to be a reference. Now that the application is online, it's somewhat removed that conversation between applicants and references. So we're seeing a lot more deficiencies, and we do have a slide coming up on deficiencies, but I would say as an applicant, please have a conversation with your references to be sure that they are comfortable being a reference for you for your license, as well as discussing the work experience that you plan to submit as part of your application. The link on the bottom here is to a document that we have also provided as a PDF, and it goes into appropriate work experience as well as satisfactory references. So who is an appropriate reference based on the discipline that you are applying. And again, if you are applying for a civil engineer license, you will be able to register for the seismic and survey exams after your application is approved. So now we're going to just briefly touch on the online application system, BPELS Connect. This launched in September of 2020 with our EIT and LSIT applications, as well as our online complaint submittal process. We currently have all PE license applications in Connect, with the exception of traffic, geotech, and structural. And our geology and geophysicist applications just went live, I think, just a couple weeks ago. So if you are looking to apply for an EIT certificate or a PE license, you will need to create a Connect account. Once you have a Connect account, you can click on New Application, and this is the screen that will show up. So the paper applications have the information that was collected on the paper application has not changed. It is just moved to an online format. To complete and submit an application, you do need to have all of the green tabs that are on the left-hand side of this screen showing green check marks. If a green check mark is there, it means that you've completed any required information on that slide. If there is a yellow triangle, that means that you have not yet visited that page. And a red circle with an X means that some required information has not been submitted or entered. So you will need to circle back to that page. Once all pages show green with a check mark, you can submit your application. Once you've submitted your application, your dashboard will look similar to this. Under where it says application number, that will be the application number specific to your application. If you click on that link, it will take you to a PDF of the application that was submitted. Under status, this will provide you with status updates as your application moves throughout the review process. We have added a link under links and resources in the top right corner that describes each status and what that means as far as the big picture in the review of your application. Under action, this will populate if there is some action to be taken by you as the applicant. So after you submit an application, the first action that will pop up will be L&R exam. This is your laws and rules exam. This is a multiple choice question on California laws and rules surrounding licensure. It is required to be passed prior to your application moving to technical review. So if you click on that link, it will take you to the exam, and that exam is now online as well. Looking at the tabs that are available to you, you have status, references, and exams. If you click on the references tab, it'll show the information that is showing on the screen right now with the engagement and your references. This will list out the engagement record and reference forms that you have submitted with your application, and the status will show whether your reference has completed Part B. So as an applicant, you will complete Part A, including your work experience, description of your work experience, and then your reference will verify and complete Part B. Please note that your application will not move to technical review unless a minimum of 4 references have responded. Excuse me. Some common application deficiencies that we are seeing now that our applications have transitioned to the online format. The first being that transcripts are not being provided for applicants who are claiming education. Now that you are not mailing your application package to the board, it seems that applicants are claiming education by clicking yes to wanting to claim education, but they are forgetting to actually submit their transcripts. Your transcripts need to be mailed or emailed directly from the university or college to the board, or you can request that your university or college upload your transcripts to your NCES account. Some other common deficiencies that we're seeing is that the description of engineering tasks, duties, and decisions that are entered on Part A are vague or do not sufficiently explain your role in performing engineering work. Excuse me, I had civil on here, but it applies to all different disciplines. So when you're completing your application, be sure to provide specific information about the engineering tasks and decisions that you are involved in. Remember, Mike and I are not sitting there at your office. We do not know what engineering work you are doing. We are simply going off of what is submitted in the 800 characters or whatever the limit is. So you do need to provide enough information to show that you are technically qualified to be licensed. So do not be vague or general. Another deficiency we see is that the work experience includes non-engineering work. So keep in mind that project management, construction project management, project coordination, this type of work is not considered engineering. You do not need an engineering license in order to do this type of work. So it does not qualify for licensure. Another deficiency we see is that the work experience includes engineering work in another discipline. So remember that only work experience in the discipline that you are applying for will qualify for licensure. Some others are that work experience overlaps with postgraduate education or is research for a thesis or dissertation. That type of work will not qualify. And then you do need to have references who are in responsible charge of your work in order for that work to be accepted. So what that means, again, in California, you cannot practice civil, electrical, or mechanical engineering unless you're licensed. So as somebody who is working towards your license, any engineering work that you are doing needs to be under the direct supervision of somebody who is taking responsibility of your engineering tasks and decisions. So you will want that person or those people to be references. For civil engineering applicants, once your application is approved, your status will change to exam eligible and you will be able to request your state exams, your seismic principles and engineering surveying exam. Once you are eligible, you will need to log into your BPELS Connect account and select one of the 2 following quarters that you would like to take your exam. And then just to wrap up the presentation, once you are licensed in California, there are various ways that you can become involved with the board. We're always looking for experts to help us with the development of our state exams. So the seismic and survey exams, as well as our traffic and geotechnical exams. We also look for experts to help with enforcement cases. And then as needed, we also need licensees to serve on technical advisory committees. So if you're interested in one of those, you can go to our website. I would encourage everybody to please subscribe to the board's email list. This will provide you with information that you need about laws and rules that change, application procedures that change, So you can do that on our website. And that concludes our application, or excuse me, our presentation. And I will start going through the chat. Mike, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I was going to add before we took questions is when I got licensed, we didn't have this NCS council record, or at least it wasn't available. So I just wanted to remind somebody who's going to get, newly licensed and they're going through our application process. I would encourage them to do our references, and at the same time, I would put your references in NCS. You don't have to, but there's a location you can put your references in the NCS, because you need to think in your career long term, 10 to 15 years down the road, you might become licensed in another state, or you might need to locate that reference and you won't have that. When you do the references in the state of California, we keep them. We will not provide them to another state. NCS would provide them to another state. So it may be an additional task early on, but I think it'll save you effort in the long run. So again, just as you're filling out your application through the Connect system, I would have the NCS system up and then provide your references in there as well. So then you'll have a place to store them throughout your career. Just a lesson learned. Wish I would have done it. Might help you. And with that, I would just leave that to questions.
So looking at some of the questions in the chat, how is education counted if I have a master's in engineering but a bachelor's in a non-engineering field? If you are applying for licensure, meaning that you've passed both the FE and PE exam, then we would only be looking at your master's degree to see if it is accredited or considered board approved. If it is, then you will receive 5 years of experience credit for your master's degree. If you have a PE in one discipline and want to get a PE in a second discipline, can your master's PhD that was used be used a second time? Yes, you can use education. You can claim the same education for multiple licenses. However, you cannot claim the same experience or overlapping experience for different licenses, but you will be able to use that master's PhD for both disciplines. Latest update for EIT and PE exam. We've provided handouts with information as well as links to the NCS website. So any latest updates, you can go to the NCS website.
I provided the calculator link as well. So there's a calculator policy right there on NCS. I didn't tap it in there, but the person can see the links we provided as well.
Great. Does the person who does reference for me have to be in the same field of engineering I'm applying towards? As in, can a civil engineer do reference for electrical engineer who's worked under that person? So because you're asking as an electrical engineering applicant, I'm going to let Mike answer that.
Right. So for both electrical and mechanical, a civil engineer would qualify as a reference, because a civil engineer can do electrical and mechanical when it's in conjunction to their civil work. So a civil engineer would qualify for work experience for either electrical or mechanical.
If I have not taken the civil 8-hour for 10 years, would I need to redo my references? So again, I would, if you applied years ago and are wondering if your application is still pending or still current, I would suggest emailing your appropriate evaluator. If you go to our board website, which is shown on the screen here, and look, there will be email addresses for evaluator 1, 2, and 3, and those are based on the discipline that you're applying for. They will be able to provide specific information to your application and eligibility. Does my reference have to hold a PE license themselves? I can answer in terms of a civil engineer. If you are applying for a civil engineer license, your references do need to be licensed civil engineers in order to qualify. Mike, do you want to answer that for the other disciplines?
The other disciplines may change depending on which license you're applying for. So a Title Act realized that anybody can practice that. So a PE license may not be required for that reference. And then electrical and mechanical, we have what constitutes as a satisfactory reference. There is an area of industrial exemption, talks about mining, manufacturing, research and development that would not be required for licensing, but it has to fall into those areas. Usually when we're dealing with the state of California, we're looking for licensed engineers. So the work you're doing here in the state of California.
I think we addressed all the questions in the chat, but if not,
The other thing I wanted to highlight, because somebody asked about the civil PE exam, realize that you must take the FE exam or have a FE waiver approval done to then sit for the civil PE exam. I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't, because somebody put in board approved is not required to register. That's correct, but not for sitting for the exam, I believe. You want to correct me if I'm wrong, Natalie?
that's correct. Another question came in. I think you may have gone over this, but can I apply for the FE in environmental and then apply for a PE in civil? Yes, you can take any of the 7 FE exams, but the PE exam does need to be in the discipline that you are applying for licensure.
And then one thing is, if we're waiting for another question, I would just remind for the younger engineers, because I can't tell the whole audience that we're speaking to. If you're newly licensed, I would also encourage you, there's nothing precluding you from taking another second PE test. So if you've just recently got an electrical or a mechanical, you can look at another discipline. I wish somebody had told me that, because I would probably have pursued fire protection or something else. You can do that because you've already passed the FE. You can sign up and take another PE exam. You will still need work experience to obtain the second license, but that's at least another step. I do see that in some of the applications I review, and just bringing that what I'm looking at the licensing population as they're evolving through time. So just a reminder, you can take a second PE test.
Any other questions? I saw a chat pop in there and then I think it disappeared, something about supervision of construction. I don't know if that was a question or not. It popped up and then I think it disappeared. I can't find it.
I have a question, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. The reference from who is in responsible charge of the work, does that responsible charge have to be done at the time the work is happening rather than after the fact?
I believe the answer would be yes. So and I'm speaking for civil engineering, somebody who is not licensed cannot practice civil engineering unless they are under the direct supervision of somebody in responsible charge of their work. So any civil engineering work that the individual is doing, whether it be designing something, designing storm drains, designing a building, designing anything on the plans, any reports, any decisions that are being made that constitute the practice of civil engineering, all of that needs to be directly supervised by somebody who is licensed at the time that those tasks and decisions are being made. And so if that person is the reference, then the answer is yes, that work needs to be, that person needs to be in responsible charge as the work is happening.
I would also just reiterate, our reference forms are pretty much black and white on that issue. You're either in responsible charge or you're not during the time periods in which the reference is attesting to under the penalty of perjury.
Hey, I've got a quick question. I'm a chemical engineer. So I just want to clarify for the references for chemical engineering, do they need to be chemical engineers, not necessarily licensed? I'm a little confused, just based on, the information that you guys have talked about.
We went through a lot of material. So for chemical, the answer would be they wouldn't have to hold a PE because the title chemical engineer is a title act. Therefore, the practice is not protected. So an electrical PE could actually be a reference for a chemical engineer.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. And then lastly, on that note, I just want to triple clarify. It sounded like you guys were saying if you pass any of the FE exams, you can then go apply for any of the PE exams. Is that correct?
That is correct. So once you
Okay.
pass, doesn't matter which FE you pass, we just look, you pass the fundamentals in engineering, and then you can take a PE exam. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be in the same subdiscipline you took the FE in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a great presentation.
Looks like there's a question in the chat. Can you recommend any training courses which are offered for the PE civil exam? Unfortunately, I can't recommend any, but I would suggest talking with your coworkers, your supervisors who have passed that exam. Perhaps they have some resources available to you or suggestions on training courses that you could take.
I would echo that for all the other PE disciplines. In all our years of being with the board, and I believe Natalie can probably say, we don't know if there's one better vendor versus the other. It's really up to you, and it's a personal decision. It's really what your knowledge base is at the time, whether what training best fits you. So there's not a particular right answer that we're holding back or don't know of. It's really a personal decision than anything else. And that's all I have.
All right, it looks like we covered, we got one more hand up. Aga.
Yes, I have one question. Let me see. One question is there is a planning for the renewal of the EIT, like a PE license after 2.5 years, you have to go for the renewal of the license. And is there any plan for EIT in a future for the renewal, or it is valid for maybe if somebody get a license, EIT in 2010, and it is valid up to 2093. So is there any plan for the renewal of the EIT, or it is forever?
As far as I know, your EIT certificate, your EIT title expires when you become licensed. So there is no renewal for an EIT. And again, I think it's really important to note that your EIT is a certificate and it's a title that you can use, but it does not give you legal authority to practice civil, electrical, or mechanical engineering. And so the EIT is really just that first step to becoming licensed. So there wouldn't really be a need to renew it, because the hope would be that you would be taking steps to get your PE license. So no, there is no renewal process in place for the EIT.
So in addition to that, if somebody wanna keep both EIT and PE, he can do that?
No, once you get a PE, your EIT expires. There's no use, there's no use to the EIT other than a title to show your employers or future employers that you are taking the steps necessary to become licensed.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I have a follow-up question to that. So since once you get your PE, the EIT kind of expires in a sense, because you have your PE, is that what allows you to go sign up and take another PE test?
That's just passing the fun. Once you pass the FE exam, that's your ability to sign up for a PE exam. So you can pass multiple technically. Right. You can sign up. Actually, I believe you might even be able to schedule 2. So in your case, we talked chemicals given 365 days out of the year. And let's say you wanted to sign up for fire protection given every October. So the FE is your ability that you have the approval to sign up for register and sit for an exam for the PE. The
Okay.
FE passing does that ability.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was a little confusing. I think Natalie was saying it expires basically once or goes away, which I understand. Thank you. That makes sense.
So let me, yeah, I apologize. Let me clarify, and I don't know if Mike mentioned this earlier. So, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, it changed. When I took the what's now called the FE exam, it was called the EIT exam because you had to apply to take the exam. You had to apply and get approved to take the EIT exam. And once you passed, you were automatically issued your EIT certificate. It's now changed where you don't need to apply for approval to sit for the FE exam. You can register and take the FE exam. And then once you've passed that, you apply for your EIT certificate. So your FE results do not expire, but your EIT certificate expires when you get your license, if that helps clear it up.
Thank you. Yeah, very helpful.
Do you
I have another.
have an EIT to be approved for a PE license, or you just have to pass the FE exam?
Correct. You just need to pass the FE exam to meet the requirement for licensure. Mike, what were you going to say?
I was going to move on to the next topic, but I want to make sure we covered this one. So I think Natalie and I get it from a different wording. We get this question a lot. This one comes, I'm an associate safety engineer in the Division of Industrial Relations in Oakland. I have also run construction and modernization projects. I'm dealing with, I believe this is the same person. I'm dealing with elevators. Is there is any of this applicable? Well, there's really two folds to this question, and whether it's this work experience or others, where does it fall in the definition of engineering work? That's the disciplines that we just highlighted. So does it fit in civil, electrical, mechanical? Where does it fit? The other question that I also, and then do you have references that are PEs to validate that work? That's the piece for the work experience. But usually what happens in a lot of our applicants, they're concerned about work experience when the first question is have I taken the FE exam and have I passed that? Have I moved on to the PE exam and passed that? So really asking the exam questions first. One, am I qualified to take that exam? And then what's my education for that? So looking at the work experience is interesting, but I usually point a lot of our applicants back to look at which exam they're going to take or have attempted or have where are they in that cycle. A lot of applicants get fixated on the work experience when the exam components haven't been completed yet. And in that case, just to kind of bring my discussion back to that, where would it fit in mechanical? And do you have mechanical PE references to verify that work experience? And is that actually mechanical work experience, or are you just verifying a design, a construction installation?
All right, it looks like we covered most of the questions that came in, and there are probably a few that are gonna pop up in everyone's mind after the webinar. So encourage everybody to reach out with the contact information that Natalie and Mike provided if you have specific questions after this. And again, this will be posted and available. The webinar recording will be posted and available to our members in the future. So want to take a moment to thank you, Natalie and Mike, for joining us, and flexibility with doing the Zoom presentation. Can be difficult to navigate through the virtual world. So appreciate having you, and we look forward to collaborating with you and BPELS in the future. So Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
very
us.
much.
Thank